I mean, it is funny that like one of the anathemas for her is to douse a fire. So like if he's on a ship and something happens to catch fire, like he's probably not going to put it out.
Sorry, nothing I can do.
I know how.
I like
but no.
Like, my God says I can't help.
Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Sam, and I'm bitter this week.
Okay.
Because in campaigns this week, I had amazing moves, great responses, and other people stole my kills.
Bummer.
I did really big hits that came with persistent bleed. And the persistent bleed, I think, would have killed both of those characters, but then somebody else swooped in and shanked them before we got to my persistent bleed
Tail is
damage.
always time.
Tail.
I was so upset.
Because she would crit and then bring them down to like basically dead. And then just everyone else, like a stiff breeze, bowled them over with another attack.
Bummer.
It was great. I had 2 natural 20s for 2 different of enemies in a 4 enemy block. So it was
on spell
So
attacks.
you're doing work.
yes.
Yeah.
I did so much work, Ryan,
Yeah.
and no credit.
Nice. Well, I'm Tyler, and in that same session, that one was fun because it was shifting maps, so it was like a temporal situation. So like the map would shift every 2, and I had my TV on, and so wherever they were, the
You
map
just
would shift,
switch it?
and then they would end up in different place. Like they would stay in the same place and be like, oh, and at one point they were in the sky.
It was a really cool mechanic.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so I'm like, you are now 1,000 feet above the ground, falling, and like you have to like swim to each other to try to like skydive and stab each other.
Yeah.
But my favorite part was Letty has this. She's a ranger and she has this bow.
Sure.
Well, she normally has a sword, but she got a bow as part like as loot a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's a sky piercing bow, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
You can cause a storm. You can shoot an arrow somewhere and teleport to it. So one of the steal kills was Sam crit this person. Then they all
Like I do.
they all, ended up in the air, and so they couldn't move easily. And so Letty's like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Can I shoot the arrow past the person and then teleport to the person and then swap for my sword and then kill him? And I'm like,
That sounds
yes.
really complicated.
Keisha
though.
was like, shoot him. You have a bow. Why don't you just shoot the person? So she's like, oh yeah. So she shot and killed the person.
Nice.
But it's just like, on one hand, I really appreciate that she remembers the mechanics of what the item can do.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, this item has these abilities, but she like forgot that it could be used as a bow.
We also feel like that's just like really on brand for that character who has gotten like progressively dumber as we've gone through this
Yeah.
campaign. Like he was not a dumb character, but now he's just like
Letty started this character.
hokey dumb guy.
Yeah, Letty started this character as like, I mean, she's playing Geralt
Yeah.
of Galt.
Yeah.
So from
of Rivia.
of Rivia. Yeah.
Jeez.
But she started him like quiet, like Henry
quiet
Cavill in
confidence,
Galt.
yeah.
And then now it's just he's a freaking moron. Like
Too
can't
much head
read,
trauma.
too dumb. Like
He's super derpy.
anyway, so yeah, that was great to watch the mind calculus of how do I get here to there with my bow instead of just shooting the person with 10 health left.
Beautiful. Well, I'm Ryan, and I haven't played any RPGs in a month because
Charles.
Charles has a job
Yeah.
that requires him to have time at that job. It's a bummer. It's a huge bummer. But he was like in Vegas last week.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's not fair.
He keeps going places.
It's not fair.
Not
Having a
playing with
life.
us.
It's not fair. But I am planning a Fabula Ultima campaign,
Whoop, whoop.
which is going to be really weird because I don't know. I mean, I read the rule book. Not super confident in my ability to run it, but
We might have to do. Does
gonna figure it out.
that come with a like lore background on Fabula Ultima, or is it mostly?
The lore is generated by the players as you go.
Okay.
So like,
So not.
Oh, so we have to make it up. Okay.
well, it's like when you start the session, you get to the place you're going to go. Basically, I'm going to be like, okay, you're in the hub city. I have lore for the hub city, but everything outside of the hub city is up to you guys to just like
okay.
tell me what you want to go do.
Anyway, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird.
It's basically the Final Fantasy, the role playing game.
Yes.
It's got that art. So cool.
It's gonna be weird.
Yeah, so that's where we are this week. Reminder, you can support us on Patreon. There's a link in our show notes and also a page on our website. Or you can search us at Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast on Patreon. Coming in from last podcast, things we misspoke. You might have thought we misspoke something, but we did not. We used both Chelish and Chelaxian when referring to that people group, but both are correct because they appear in multiple sources, both of them. So we're not wrong.
Yeah, this specifically was the thing that I prefer Chelish. And I know Tyler prefers Chelaxian. I don't know where Sam you lie.
I don't know if I prefer. I just like
it's just what makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like Chelish too.
But then I was like actually angry reading the Mwangi book because it uses Chelaxian. And I remember when I did part of the Chelish episodes, I looked it up and it was Chelish in the Cheliax episode. Turns out both are right.
I like Chelish because it sounds like hellish, so it makes sense to me for the people.
Ooh,
but Chelaxian is what I would assume just based on how we do like real world people grouping.
Yeah. I feel like Chelaxian is what the person who wouldn't know would call it because it's just like, oh yeah, you're Chelaxian.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It also sounds like Chillaxin, which is funny.
Chillaxin.
We have hellish and Chillaxin.
It just depends on like where your vibe falls.
How are you feeling today?
So anyway, today we are going to be moving into our next big area. We are moving into the Mwangi Expanse.
Woo!
Yeah.
So
we are
pumped.
Out of the oceans, out of the high seas. I'm forever sad. Bye-bye, pirates. It's fine. They're still going to be here. So Ryan is going to take us into this fabulous new land. Take it away.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah. So we're going to do a quick recap of Sargava. Tyler kind of already talked about it because it's more...
I mean, a little bit.
And then we'll kind of transition into Vidrian, which is what it is today.
Nice. It's a good transition from our Avestan to Garoon by taking a previously Avestani colony.
Yes. Yeah. It is a perfect window for you to step from Avestan into the Mwangi.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it was made like that. So Sargava, established around 4111 after Chelaxian, that's what it calls it in the book. Chelaxian Explorer. Oh, and I should say, most of this comes from the Mwangi book, the Mwangi Expanse.
Mwangi Expanse.
Which is behind me on the bookshelf right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4111, after the Chelaxian explorers scouted Golarion with all the awful images of cannibalism.
Love it.
They were like, nah, we're good. We're going to go somewhere else. And they established their little colony. This is the west coast of Garoon.
Yeah. Southwest.
Yeah. Southwest.
Yeah. It's weird that they went all the way southwest.
It's fine.
To find that.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Fast forwarding to 4606, the Civil War in Cheliax occurs. The Baron Gralis backed House Davian instead of House Thrune. The colony basically gets targeted because of that poor choice.
Poor choice.
Yes.
Can we back up for a hot second?
Yes.
So Sargava, as it's founded by Cheliax,
yes.
Did they take over existing borders of a country? Or did they just carve out, here's some land and we're just claiming it? And so existing borders are because of Cheliax, not because of the native people?
It's definitely, there were people there and they were like, great, an uninhabited land.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was not split up this way in the 4100s.
No. And I'll just say it now then, I guess. Most of the continent is much more like city-statey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like there's really not large nations and like large empires.
Yeah.
It's very much more like city-states scattered throughout Mwangi.
Yeah. So the fact that there's like I guess kind of like a border country is a very Avestani thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a very Avestani like construct put into a place that doesn't really do that as much.
Okay.
Yeah. But during the Civil War, the Sargavan government, they fight Cheliax. They don't want to get taken back over. They're ultimately successful because they pay the free captains to help them, and they get pirate help, essentially. So by the time they're able to kind of establish their quasi-independence, Cheliax never formally signs a document that says, you are now independent, but they just kind of figure, it's not worth the resources and the time, and we have problems elsewhere.
Yeah.
You can live on your own for now, but we'll be back.
Okay.
But they don't come back.
Spoilers.
Spoilers, but they don't.
And that was after the second attack.
Yes.
In like 4660, they were just like, whatever. You do
Yes. Yeah, they're like, whatever, man. We've been trying for a while. It's clearly not worth our time.
Yeah.
The interesting part is simultaneously, and this is more Gurundi history.
Yeah.
Sargava decided to make a land attack of their own to expand their own borders while they're defending their
jeez.
Look,
coast.
they are just trying to spread the exploration bug to the southern continent.
Yeah, it's definitely like, just because they're like freedom fighters compared to Cheliax doesn't mean that they're still Chelaxian and they're still looking to expand.
On the spectrum.
It's like they're not actively devil worshippers, but they're definitely still imperialists.
Oh boy. Ugh. They're the Chelaxian part, not the Chelish part.
Oh, that's why they're Chelaxian, because they're not hellish. They're Chelaxian.
There it is.
Got
This
it.
is my canon for this.
See,
I really
this is
like
good.
They
it.
have shirts down there, just Chelaxian and Sargava.
Paizo, please confirm.
Oh, yes.
Would that get us a trademark if we made a t-shirt of that?
That's pretty
Probably.
good. That is really good.
If we spelled it different, no. That's how everybody gets away with knockoff handbags.
It's true. Chillaction in the colonies.
Chillaxing
I don't know if we want to
I don't
wear
really
that
wanna put
t-shirt.
That has some bad connotations.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, they send their own land army, which I assume is pretty modest. I mean, they're not like an enormous empire. They're like one little colony.
Yeah.
They send it east to the city-state of Mazzali. I think that's right. But this force is destroyed by Walkenna, who is a lawful evil mummy god.
Oh, dang. Good for him.
Yeah. Bold strategy, Chillax, Sargava.
So before this invasion a long time ago, Walkenna ruled from a young age as a stern but fair sun-influenced king. So kind of like the sun, like Tutankhamun, like a young,
Yeah.
a young Egyptian emperor, like a young Egyptian pharaoh who is stern but fair and kind of gets his power, quote, from the sun. But he dies at a young age and was mummified according to the techniques of ancient Osirian, which we have not talked about yet, but basically Egypt, sort of kind of Egypt. When Sargava invaded, he arose from the dead in his mummy form.
Oh, dear.
And destroyed that invading army by raining fire from the heavens.
Dang.
And obliterated the invading army.
Okay, so it wasn't that they tried to invade the current territory of a mummified god king.
Correct.
It's that they invaded a territory that a god king showed up.
That was like, oh, you can't invade my people. I'm going to rise from the dead as a god king.
I love that for them.
Dang.
Yes.
That's great.
So this is very much a Razmir situation where he is a level 20 wizard demigod. Everyone in the area worships him as a god, so he is considered deific.
But is he as like creepy and weird as Razmir?
I mean, he's lawful evil, so like...
Yeah, but Razmir definitely is doing the whole like culty, like everybody worship me. Is he doing that, or is he like, this is my people and they worship me and you can come too, but I'm not going to be creepy and weird and make you do it?
I feel like, and I guess we might get to it when we talk about that area more, but I thought it was like he was like a good ruling king, and then when he became an undead person, like all of the goodness was no longer there, and then he was basically just kind of like a petulant child, a level 20.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not a
So
great
That's
ruler.
he like
unfortunate.
rules as like a child who has the power of a level 20 and no like morality compass.
Yes. Belief in law is an abstract. Yeah. It's like petulant
And-
child, not the
That's-
good
And that might be
So
character.
not
and that might be a little bit like broad strokes, so I think we'll probably get into a little bit more nuance when we talk about it.
Well,
but-
and the other thing that he, again, it's like lawful evil, but kind of agree, is he advocates for the expulsion of all non-Mwangi from the continent. It's like his big point is like, these Avistani people came here and they took our land, and that's wrong, and so we're going to kill them all. You're
I
like,
mean, he's not wrong.
But,
Yeah.
but also he's like a petulant child and like just
Yeah.
murders people sometimes.
Yeah. It's fine. Anyway.
Anyway, Sargava's army obliterated, but their quasi-freedom secured. They kind of settle in and decide, yep, we're going to just do this for a while. We're going to be our own little Cheliacs and still embolden or embody the Chelish ways, but minus the devil parts.
Okay.
All the native Mwangi do not like that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
They do not like being colonized. The vast majority of the natives are forced to work in plantations under slavery.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Freaking
The
Cheliacs.
ruling small minority population are Cheliacs, or Chelish.
Of course.
Yes. So in 4715, the native Mwangi, who are like 90% of the population,
Yeah.
Sure.
rise up against the colonial overseers.
Whoop, whoop.
Like I said, they're all, well, they're technically classified as unpaid plantation workers.
Boo.
Yeah, slaves.
Oh, boy.
They're slaves. They were joined by some foreigners who did not believe in like the central Sargavan government. So there is a little bit of help from other Avistani. And they primarily use guerrilla tactics to just bleed the government dry. They don't really have the skills or the ability to organize like a large conventional fighting force. So they just burn the plantations and starve the central government.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you are the ones who are providing all of the food and farming and whatever, like not working, just like, well,
Yep.
we're just going to
That's
stop.
a lot of leverage.
Yeah.
Yep. There's also a small group of smugglers who I assume are free captains. They're on Smuggler's Shiv. They bleed the government from the sea. So they just like attack every boat that comes in and
Nice.
sink all the boats.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's both sides, by land and by sea. They're just getting slowly bled dry. And eventually a critical mass, like the capital can't sustain itself,
Yeah.
can't defend itself. They kind of march on the capital, all these plantation workers. It's called Elder, E-L-E-D-E-R,
Elidir.
and they rename it Anthusis.
Anthusis.
Anthusis. They rename
There
it
it is.
Anthusis. And this is the Vidric Revolution. They
Yeah.
renamed the nation Vidrian. It's the Vidrian Revolution, the Vidric Revolution. They also immediately turn around, and the free captains who have still been helping Sargava, this is the part where Tower mentioned they realized that the free captains have kind of been screwing them. So they also ban all the free captains.
Oh, goodbye, pirates.
Yeah, and they say, well, we don't need your help either. We can deal with it ourselves.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
It is also kind of wild because this is, 4715 is 9 years ago.
Very recent.
Yes, super
Yeah.
duper recent.
So like this country is real tiny or real new,
Real fresh.
real
Yes.
fresh.
For those of you Vexology people who will listen, their flag is way better now.
Oh, dang.
So I put the flags in the notes for Tyler and Sam.
Can confirm.
The old
Yeah.
Sargavan flag is like Cheliacs plus swords.
Yeah, because you have it's like what they do with some of the
British colonies.
British
basically.
colonies.
It's
Like
British
it's like,
flag.
Yeah. Cheliax flag in the top corner, rest is white, couple swords.
Yes.
And then now we have like a kind of sky blue.
It's like a dope rising phoenix.
Yeah, rising phoenix, ton of color. Love it.
Flaming birds.
Flaming birds.
Pretty sweet. So like you said, Tyler, it's a very, very recent nation. There's not a whole lot of other history to talk about. So I was going to focus more on kind of how they function in day-to-day life today.
I like it.
I like it.
They seek to balance their active debt, and it's a big problem for the government. So they took out a lot of loans to free themselves.
Yeah.
Originally, when they were fighting off their overseers and their subjugators, they're like, whatever, do what we need to do, get rid of the bad people. But now they kind of have to pay some of those debts back.
Yeah.
It was to the point during the revolution, most donated all their jewelry and their valuables to the war effort. So in general, culturally, any kind of ostentatious displays of wealth are very culturally faux pas.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's like, oh, if you still have diamonds, that means you didn't
didn't.
support the revolution.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. or
Huh.
like- and also, the people who wore all those diamonds were like the
Colon-
Chelish colonizers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone is very against super ostentatious displays.
Yeah.
It is mentioned that everyone typically has like one piece of jewelry or like some kind of like family heirloom.
Okay.
So it's not to say they don't wear any kind of things. It's just like, shouldn't be walking around with like blinged out top, head to toe.
Yeah. Like you might instead have grandma's locket
Yes.
that holds personal value.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Yes. In terms of the government, there's obviously not a lot of appetite for a strong, solitary head of state. So they have a council, the Vidric Council. That's all the name they have for it. They haven't like gotten around to giving it a fancier name, but it's a large council and it has lots and lots and lots of members.
Okay.
There's not any really explicit criteria for admission to the council. It's kind of just like who is important.
Yeah.
So if you argue that you are important, you're on the council. Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
So there are a bunch of just individual heroes from the revolution, people who were instrumental to freedom. Great. You get a seat on the council. Good job.
Nice.
There's also large organizations who have seats. Some of them are fun. Some of them are less fun. I listed a few here. There's the combined mercantile interests.
Love
Ooh.
it. I always love a good mercantile interest.
Literally just all the other merchants from the area that are like, yep, we all think we're important.
Yep.
And they have a lot of money and they are important. So they get their own seat. The field unions, these are the representations of the agricultural laborers, literally
Sure.
the union. They are represented by, man, I'm not going to name this one right. Gumbolzia,
I think the G's silent. Bamisala.
Bemisala, Mambi, a human female. She's like the union rep. And she advocates for what she thinks is right for all the field workers.
Nice.
Yeah, and they get a seat at the table. The independent banks of Vidrian.
Always got to get those bankers.
It's really important that they're independent. So they've cut all formal ties back to Avistani banks,
Nice.
but they also still acknowledged like, oh, we need to like have money
Yeah.
to pay back the debtors. So they have this arrangement now with the independent banks where they never take too much and they don't take anything from people who don't have anything to take.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So it's like neutral banking, not evil banking.
Okay.
Sure.
Nice. Yeah.
And it's kind of an unwritten rule that if the banks were overstepped, they would just get completely like wiped because people would not be happy about that.
Can we do that? We're watching you.
Yeah, it's represented by Meriden, a gender fluid halfling.
Oh, nice.
Who is they were brought over in debt, like an indentured servitude situation from Cheliax, because Cheliax has halfling slaves.
Oof.
And they like advocate for the stance of the banks, but also they came from poverty, so they kind of have a good taste of what both sides feel like.
I feel like that's the way to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, you have somebody who can handle it and who knows how to like run things.
Yeah.
But also is like knows what the other side's doing.
Yeah, they get it. They
Yeah.
get it. The represented theologies.
Okay.
These names are hilarious also.
It's a collection of clerics, priests, and other religious folk who all kind of generally decide religion is important in the ruling of the nation.
Love it.
Sure.
The diabolic faiths of Cheliax are banned.
Good.
Good.
So you cannot worship devils and demons and be part of this.
I think that would be diabolic.
Diabolic?
Diabolic.
Diabolic. Diabolic faiths.
I liked Diabolic though. It
Diabolic.
made me like Diablo.
Yeah, so it's most of the faiths that are, and specifically a lot of them are non-native faiths.
Okay.
So this is where like Saren Ray, Desna, like all those faiths kind of have one central representative on the council. And they are represented by Mandela Doob.
Mandela Doob.
Mandela Doob, cleric of Saren Ray.
Nice.
The Vane, and the Vane is a fun one. So the Vane is the CIA.
Oh, good.
Oh.
The Vane is the Vidrian CIA. So initially they were like, well, intelligence networks are an evil Avistani creation. Like we don't need our own version of like an intelligence network to defend the nation. We're better than that. And then immediately they were like, oh God, we need intelligence.
You need sneaky people.
Yeah. Oh God, we need the sneaks. So it is led by Avarnius. He was originally offered the job. He refused it. And then like a month later, he's like, okay, I guess I agree. I guess you guys are incompetent and need a leader who actually knows how to do this. Avarnius is a cool person. So they have a secret past and secret links that are not specified like anywhere.
And also
Love
to
that.
clarify it, they're non-binary.
Yes,
So
they are
it's
non-binary.
You had said
Well,
he.
Oh, I said he initially?
Yeah.
sometimes non-binary also
Well, that's true.
can use both, so I wasn't sure.
I'll stick with they.
Okay.
but they were found guilty and tried of something, some kind of like secret sneaky thing by the Sargavan government. We know that they were associated with the Thieves Guild, so maybe that's what they were tried and found guilty of. Unfortunately, when the Sargavan government was overthrown, they were like still found guilty of issues and like crimes, and they were going to still be in prison until people kind of put the pieces together and figured out, oh, actually they were using their social connections to gather info against the Sargavan government, and they were leaking government schedules, and they were leaking classified information.
Oh, nice.
So they were like doing such a good job of being a spy that both people thought they were in trouble with it. Yeah, they're really good at their job, but again, no one quite knows where their like loyalties lie sometimes. Like they know they're loyal to Vidrian, but also, man, you got some stuff going on in the background.
They're too good at their jobs.
Yeah, really, really good at their jobs. The other fun connection is apparently they had a courtship with Queen Tessa Fairwind.
Oh.
What? Ooh.
Pirate lady.
So they like had a relationship and they were presumably supposed to get married, but then apparently Avarnius dumped Tessa.
Uh-oh.
And Tessa holds it against them like bitterly.
Oh, snap.
And it's another like point of contention between the Free Captains and Vidrian, that like the equivalent of the Vidrian CIA
is against the
the Free
Hurricane
Captain, like,
Queen.
their exes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to watch that reality show.
Yeah.
Ooh, we can make that one.
So that's like a weird side note. And there's also a bunch of minor organizations that the book lists, and it even explicitly talks about like, yeah, make your own. The council's huge. You can kind of just put anybody on there. So if you're running a campaign in Vidrian, just make up whoever you want on the council.
Fun.
The other interesting part that I found about Vidrian was its connection and relationship with the underworld. The central government is not strong enough to hold power on its own. So they have a very strong agreement with the Thieves Guild, and the Thieves Guild is almost an arm of the government. Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
It's like the underworld takes care of the Vidrian government, the Vidric government makes sure to protect its underworld, because a lot of the underworld people, like they're merchants, they're doing lots of trading. It's in both's best interest. The Thieves Guild has agreed to not steal or mess with food or medical supplies.
Oh, that's very nice of them.
So that's like off limits. Like you can't touch those, and they'll like report themselves like, oh, somebody was stealing food. Like, and they'll like report that person for thievery to the government.
Nice.
A bunch of foreign spies have been turned in by the Thieves Guild to the central government. So like a Chelish spy or a Chelaxian spy might be like, ooh, I want to come and help you overthrow the government again. And then the thieves are like, he's right here. The spy's right here. Arrest him.
Just like, it's like, oh, where are we going to get in to like cause a ruckus? The underworld. Oh no, they're working with the government.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're also very defensive of the culture and history of the area. Because again, most of them are natives.
Sure.
So they will also like return stolen artifacts. Like if the Dutch East India Company's like rolling around and stealing stuff, they're like, oh, they stole that from like a temple.
We're looking at you, Pathfinder Society.
Yeah, the Pathfinder Society is in okay graces.
I feel like they've gotten better.
I forget the consortium. The consortium, like definitely they report people from the consortium if they like steal stuff, to the point where even like if you want to go out and explore the jungles and the temples and the ruins, you have to kind of get like a license. You have to get like a licensed guide from the Vidric government.
Okay.
And they like approve of that expedition. You can go out, and then like the government has a final say on like, oh, those are things we think are okay for you to sell. They're not important. Like, oh, these are cultural artifacts. Those stay here. We get to keep those.
That's kind of cool.
And again, the Pathfinder Society is kind of okay with this.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of vibes with the current Pathfinder Society.
Yes.
Of, work with the culture.
Well, because you can still like collect information, and it's like, oh, we're learning, but we're not stealing.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Pathfinder Society is on okay terms. They've actually gotten the official approval from the Vidric government. They still have to report their activities, but they're not banned like some other areas are.
Nice.
We mentioned it before that Vidrian's kind of the only like nation in this part, especially in the Mwangi Expanse. Like they're the only multi-city imperialist.
Yeah.
Everyone else is very much a city-state in the surrounding immediate lands.
Okay.
So it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just like it's a very Avistani thing.
It's like I mean, yeah, it's like they're trying to lean into their Mwangi roots while having the built Avistani infrastructure was already kind of
it's already there, and like you don't want to burn it all down necessarily. So they definitely grapple with the duality of kind of how their nation exists.
Yeah.
The other big city besides the capital is Umyango.
Umnyango?
I think
Umnyango. It might be I don't know.
I'll go with Umyango.
We'll look up some of these pronunciations for next.
I mean,
time.
I looked and some of them are rough.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions for us, let us know.
Technically, it's the largest city. It's larger than the capital.
Oh.
But it's inland and it's isolated from the rest of the city. Like, there's not really good roads to get there. It's a river network to get up to there. A small cult of Volcania exists there. Our little mummy sun god.
Oh boy.
So they kind of go back and forth. Sometimes the sun god cult makes trouble in the city. In general, though, they are much closer to the native Mwangi culture in this city than like the Avistani side that's more coast side. So those are your two kind of cultural locuses in the city or in the nation, to the point where the city was damaged during the revolution. Not as bad as the capital, but the stonemasons collective and faith in the Mazzali architecture and Volcania and like the native things, they're rebuilding the whole city in stone, kind of like that stone architecture.
Yeah.
And it's up in the air again. Like, are you rebuilding everything in stone because it is your native Mwangi culture and it's reminiscent of your ancestors? Or is it that the stonemasons collective really makes a lot of money if you make things out of stone? Because
I was going to say it's also then much more hard to infiltrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It even talks about Tianshi Ibuye is the leader of Tinashi. I just can't pronounce these guys. Tinashi. It's fine. Tinashi is the leader of the Stonemasons Collective, and they were the one who like advocated super hard. We need to remake everything out of stone. Okay.
Could also be Tinashe.
Tinashe?
Isn't that a current pop artist?
Oh, maybe. Tinashe?
I don't know if that's
Tinashe.
I'm not into current.
I think
pop
I
music.
went more of like a T and Shaw pronunciation of that, so it might be Tinashe.
Maybe.
Hold on, let me check Wikipedia. So yes, that is a pop singer, and it is pronounced Tinashe.
Tinashe. Okay,
cool.
And then finally, I had to pick one weird place or one cool place: the Scorched Fields.
Okay.
Ooh.
So these were verdant plains when the Chelaxian settlers got here. They're like, oh, this is great for agricultural. We'll set up the plantations here. Great. They overworked it.
Of course.
And the local Mwangi were like, okay, well, you need to not work these portions of the fields anymore because they're overworked and, rotate your agriculture somewhere else. Of course, Cheliak said, no, nonsense. We have magic for this. So they brought in a bunch of mages and they used magic to keep pumping the fertility of the fields over and over and over again.
Ooh.
Until like even the magic started to fail and the fields are just completely tallow. During the revolution, these are like dusty grasslands at this point. They set fire to them because they're like, well, yeah, that's how you rebirth the grasslands. Like that's how you burn the area and you let the burned nutrients sink back into the ground. It didn't stop burning.
Oh.
It's still on fire.
Oh my gosh.
It's smoldering.
Yeah.
So the whole area is now like this massive perpetual smoldering fire.
Oh, wow.
The fun part, though, is there's a whole research crew that researches the area, a bunch of druids and wizards and sorcerers, and they all like swear that there's fertile land underneath the smoldering areas. It's like almost done. It's almost done.
5 more minutes.
It's just still cooking.
It's almost ready to go. Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought that was pretty cool as well.
It is cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Vidrian's pretty cool. It's a young nation. It is a perfect gateway if you want to bring an Avistani party into the Mwangi and have them have some cross-cultural exposure, but also have some things that are familiar.
Yeah.
And then jump them into Mwangi proper, where things get really cool.
Nice. Well, thanks, Ryan. We are going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with a campaign and a character or two. And we're back. Tyler, take us away. What fabulous campaign have you written for us today?
Perfect. So, without knowing much about Vidrian, I wanted to make a somewhat more traditional campaign at a micro level, but a little bit of high level strategy using the influence subsystem. And I did not realize this was a thing until you talked about this in the episode. It is going to be focused around the vein.
Good.
My thought was, since kind of Vidrian's a relatively new country compared to other ones, there's a lot of attempts of outside influence and power. And, whether it's Cheliax or the Shackles or elsewhere in the Mwangi, like, there's a lot of possible enemies.
Yes.
So in this campaign, the players are going to be part of the vein. Not necessarily high level, but moderate power players in here.
Yeah.
And they're going to be the kind of like strategy team about making sure that no other outside faction gains more influence than the Vidric Council.
Okay.
So if you ever done the influence subsystem, it's basically a way to kind of see how the players are with like different people. So you can do that with relationships, like single people, you have an influence with them based on your actions. So my thought is you'd kind of have a running influence kind of counter of, okay, the Vidric Council has a certain amount of influence, and then maybe Cheliax has some influence, and then, Mazzali might have influence, and the Shackles. So the goal of the players would be to kind of work behind the scenes to tamp down other factions' influence. And so, you might have a session where you go out to stop some Shackles pirates causing a ruckus, or you might find that there's a Cheliax spy plot in the Thieves Guild to assassinate a council member or something, or like maybe you're scouting the outer borders to make sure other factions aren't encroaching. So I'd have the players kind of I'd probably give 3 or 4 options a week, and be like, hey, here's kind of your intel. Here's what you're hearing around, and then they have to choose what they want to do. And based on their choices, like if they go take out the Shackles pirates, the Shackles influence might be lower, but then maybe like some like a Cheliax thing that they couldn't take care of, kind of increase the influence there. So the kind of overarching goal is like, if you have Vidric influence at a certain level, like you want to make sure that no other factions gets above that. So it's kind of like a influence,
like the Warframe.
Factions. It's kind of like an influence management where it's like, okay, what can, we need to tamp down here, and then maybe we'll do something to like increase the Vidric influence, and like, so you're kind of like playing that resource management game while still having like a probably more traditional like session to session campaign.
When you might even be like, oh, well, we heard that there's a Chelish expedition coming this way. We actually just injured the pirates and the Shackles too much. Let's see if we can buff them up a little bit so they can go fight the Chelish for us. But not make sure they don't know that we're doing that.
Yeah, so you might have some of that like weird where it's like, okay, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They don't know it, but if we can put them at odds with each other. And I didn't realize the vein was a thing, so that worked out really well.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think my character will fit fine.
Cool.
Into this. So I have built a character named Asher, who is a champion of Lubaiko.
Lubaiko.
So Lubaiko is a Mwangi goddess. She is the goddess of wildfires, bad luck, inspiration, and turmoil.
Oh, I love this lady.
And she is a prominent goddess here in Vidrian because she was evoked a lot during the revolution.
Nice.
Oh, that makes sense.
Can you describe her picture?
So her picture is a lady
fantastic.
in like kind of like the like pirate boot long coat situation, holding a Molotov cocktail with like flames coming up from the ground.
That's sweet.
I love that art so much.
She's pretty sweet. So she is typically worshipped by revolutionaries, inventors, artists, and also arsonists.
And arson.
Interesting company.
So hilariously, her edicts are to set fires, change the world, act with ambition or not at all, and her anathemas are to calm a crowd, douse a fire, sleep in the same place 3 nights in a row.
Hilarious.
So she goes chaotic.
Yeah.
But she herself is chaotic neutral. So like we'll pull in like chaotic good and chaotic evil people too. I also like her title is The Spark in the Dust.
Ooh.
That's a
Which is
good
really
title.
Oh,
cool.
dang.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like, I built this whole character around this particular goddess because
This
I
is
thought
sweet,
she was
yeah.
cool. So, my character is a champion with a background of Fire Warden.
Ooh.
So, kind of how I envisioned him is he's probably like, at this point, 30-ish, maybe a little bit,
Okay.
like 30, 35. So, was young during the revolution, but still old enough to participate.
Mhm.
So and kind of as Ryan talked through the society and things, what I envision how he has gotten to where he is now, I think that one of his parents was native Mwangi. One of them was of Avistani heritage, but also like sympathetic to the cause.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
necessarily ruling Cheliax, but
Right.
yeah.
So then I think he's not, or he wasn't like a plantation worker necessarily. Like he maybe got pulled for better jobs
Mhm.
because of that Avistani heritage.
Mhm.
So instead does like the fire crew work on all of the plantations. So originally his job was to not let things catch fire out in the fields.
And
But
then,
then the revolution happens.
And then he found his calling.
Yes, to do the opposite.
I just can do the opposite of fire wardening, and it all works.
Well, so he's got that like background knowledge, understanding, and then kind of finds his calling through Lubaiko and the revolution, and then it kind of shifts.
Yeah.
So I like to believe that like the scorched lands are maybe very interesting to him
Yeah.
too. And so obviously was a big proponent of the revolution, but was too young to really like have a substantial role in it.
Mhm.
So post-revolution, has moved into like, how do I continue to support this cause? Which I think lines him up
Yeah.
fine with the vein.
Yes, yes.
So now he's using his knowledge of fire to help further the
Well,
cause.
I also I like the idea of having, especially if you're like a CIA kind of like task team or
Mhm.
like strategy team, like having different expertise
Mhm.
and stuff. Like he is obviously the kind of like chaos distraction type, maybe like setting fires, going from there, and like sometimes you need that. So it's like it would be interesting to have that level expertise, and then have like another person who might be more like diplomacy or more subtle.
Sam,
like
you didn't even mention what Lubaiko's symbol is.
Oh, I didn't?
A rune depicting a grenade.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes you just need someone who's like willing to lob a grenade into a situation,
Yeah.
totally cause chaos.
it's the Good Place when JC's like, look, no problem I've ever had was not solved by a Molotov cocktail. It's like, I have a problem. I chuck a Molotov cocktail and boom, now I have a completely different problem.
that initial problem is solved.
Yeah, there you go.
Bortles.
He's probably not well liked on ships, though.
Well, I mean, he's obviously like not an idiot. Like
No,
he's not
I know,
just
but I-
Like an
chaotically
arsonist.
setting everything on fire.
I like the idea that someone
He's
sees.
strategic.
I like this idea that if he has any kind of religious symbology on him at all, someone's like, "You can't come on this ship." I'm so sorry.
He has a shield and sword, so I imagine that the shield does just have a Molotov cocktail
Well,
on
and especially
it.
as a champion of like, it's
Yeah.
it's not just like, oh, I'm a follower. It's
Right.
like I'm literally
Like,
the embodiment of
I'm
Lubaiko.
fervently in lighting things on fire. I can't let you on this boat.
We don't like your kind here. What do you mean, my kind? The people who explode things. You have a grenade on your shield.
But that could be a fun like character component of it too. It's like, oh, I need to like not be super championing
Well,
right now.
Just like
Well, so
puts a cover.
I mean, it is funny that like one of the anathemas for her is to douse a fire. So like if he's on a ship and something happens to catch fire, like
Nothing-
he's probably not going to put it out.
Sorry, nothing I can do.
I know how,
I like that.
but
It's like,
no.
my God says I can't help. But even then, like you could get like, well, I can't douse the fire, but like I could pull up the boards around the fire.
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like anything else. Anathema is tiered, so it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
if
If
I'm
it was
gonna
direct
die-
danger
if dousing
to
a fire, if
myself,
not
yeah.
dousing this fire is going to kill me, like
Yeah.
you could probably douse the fire.
It's just funny.
Going
Yeah.
down.
So he is your fabulous chaos agent. I probably should have given him a more Mwangi name, but I just grabbed Asher because it's funny because of fire.
Because fire, I
Yeah.
think that works.
So
I support it.
I mean, that could even have been like a representation of the culture of like, well, if I give you an Avistani name,
Then you'll go farther.
you might go farther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
So
Nice.
very excited for him to go light fires
like
in the name
this.
of revolution.
Yeah.
I love this idea that like you're a CIA agent who's really into like arson and burning stuff, and it's like, no, it's not that part of the plan yet.
Are you sure?
Hold on.
We don't do that yet.
Well, also he
We're going
has
to talk
like
to the probate judge.
he has no diplomacy skills either.
Yes.
I gave him no charisma.
Look,
So like he can't decept, he can't diplome, he can't actually intimidate either, but great athletics, great acrobatics, religion is there, and then we've got some survival things.
Yeah.
look,
He knows nature.
Sometimes the strategy team needs a grenade.
He is your
When
grenade.
all else fails, he's the
Yeah.
grenade. Nice.
Love this.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun with him.
Nice. So, Vidrian, we need to give it a score. What are we going to give it a score out of? Molotov cocktails.
I kind of like either cocktails or like phoenixes.
Hmm.
We might have already used phoenixes too. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Can't remember if we used Phoenix or not.
Kind of like Molotovs.
Molotovs works. Burn it down. Start it fresh.
Okay. Can I spell Molotov? Is it MOLOTAV?
It's EOV.
It's all O's.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it?
Molotov.
There it is. Molotovs. Okay. So 0 to 10 Molotovs. What do we think about Vidrian?
I feel like current day
Yeah.
is like a 7 or an 8.
I was going to say 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like the underworld part is a little bit like you wouldn't show up and just, not pay attention.
Well, you need to be like, they are very, not necessarily banned, but they are very defensive and like suspicious of people from Avistan.
Yeah.
So you would definitely need to have some official paperwork and,
However, we are open to tourists of all kinds. You could be a tourist from Osirian.
True.
That's
It's true.
Or another country where things are friendly.
True.
So,
Yeah. I think as a, as long as you are not there for nefarious
mhm.
reasons,
Yeah.
like it seems like a really cool place to visit because you also you get a lot of the like kind of like we talked about how the culture affected.
Yeah. You can see a lot of different cultures there.
Yeah.
It's like definitely a mixing pot of multiple different types.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's still so new that I don't know that there's like a lot of things to do unless you are there for like educational purposes.
Yeah.
Or thievery purposes, I guess, if you
Yeah.
like wanted to get in with the underworld.
Yeah,
but-
it's a bustling mercantile society. Like
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
very much a point of connection between Avistan and Garund, one
Yeah.
of them. But
You can go check out the Scorching Field.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
See if the research is going well.
But yeah, like not a place you're gonna go and like get killed.
yeah, you're not gonna
Yes.
get killed.
Like-
You're also probably not like you're not doing your bachelor party there.
No,
Yeah. Significantly safer than a lot of the places we've been to recently.
It's very true.
that's true.
It's very true.
We've had a rough go of the last couple, so this is great.
I know we came out of the ocean like, oh my gosh, a safe civilization.
Land.
It's amazing.
We dealt with a hurricane. We dealt with assassins. We dealt with pirates. We're like
And dinosaurs. Don't forget the
and
dinosaurs.
And the dinosaurs.
Mercantile land. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is pretty chill.
Okay, so 7 out of 10 Molotovs.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love it. All right. Well, that has been our tour of Vidrian today. Thank you, Ryan.
Mhm.
Reminder to our listeners, we have a Patreon, link in the show notes or on our website, or search us on Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast. Thank you for listening thus far. If you're enjoying the pod, leave us a rating or a review on Spotify or Apple products. Also, tell your friends, get them into lore so that they can be as excited and everyone can be super nerdy together, because that's the best way to be nerdy. Feel free to reach out to us via email at tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com or on our Instagram at tabletoptravelguide with feedback, or if you just want to say hi, let us know how you're feeling post ocean adventure. Have you gotten your sea legs back? Or you can also check us out on our website at tabletoptravelguide.com. And until next time, safe travels.